Yeah, I like to think of when you drive down the motorway, the road signs there, they're coming at you at 70 miles an hour, 100k an hour, whatever it is. You've only got really that amount of time to process the information. And it's the same as a customer on your page. If you create something so fancy and excitable and it all flows and whatnot, it does look good, but they didn't read it in time, so it doesn't matter. And I think most people get it wrong because most of us are designing, they start an Amazon brand and they never get round to creating a unique style guide, brand guideline. They go with Open Sans as a font. They never give that much thought. So the how it looks and feels and tastes essentially is probably a really good way to think about it. How does it taste, that brand? It all kind of merged into one.
Welcome to Synapse Sessions, where we talk with experts who are changing the game in e-commerce. Today, I'm joined by George Reid of AMZ Design Kit, who left Amazon to help brands create high-converting designs at scale. George reveals why most sellers are overspending on design work, how AI tools like ChatGPT can slash your cost per design when used correctly, and why having solid brand guidelines matters a lot more than having fancy creative work. He breaks down the difference between Figma and Canva for scaling design systems, shares real examples from brands doing millions in sales, and explains his mountain strategy of operational base, branding, then advertising can transform your Amazon business. If you're tired of expensive design revisions and want to build a system that actually works, this conversation will show you exactly how to get high quality designs in less time for less money. Let's jump into the session. So yeah, George, you left Amazon to help brands on Amazon. Tell us about your journey with that and how you arrived at AMZ Design Kit as well.
Yeah, nice to speak, Nick. I think it started when I was a simple an account manager at Amazon in the UK, and our primary goal at the time was to push users onto FBA. And we had, like anyone at Amazon was given a KPI, we need this number of users, this amount of selection. And whilst in theory we're there to help sellers lower their costs to deliver their goods, increase their number of orders. Ultimately, we were thinking about Amazon, if I'm being frank, and that role evolved then into setting up Seller Fulfill Prime, being part of that team, setting up Amazon Business, being part of that team, and Panny U as well. So over a couple of years, we're in a few different teams, and then at the time, Amazon advertising was launching, and I had, to be frank, no idea what I was talking to people about. But I was there pitching it, going, you need to start advertising, although I didn't understand it, very wet behind the ears. Then, upon leaving Amazon, essentially I left for money, to be frank. I wanted a better paying job, and Amazon wasn't giving me that at the time. I didn't feel valued, so I left. I did go to a startup for a period, but at the same time, I was just setting up a agency and initially went down the route of education to begin with, setting up a community. And we called that Launchpod. Me and my brother set it up. Really enjoyed doing that. But eventually we then noticed people just go, I don't want to learn. I just want someone to do it for me. And then the agency sort of formed. And our priority was, how can we bring really good offshore talent to clients in Europe and the US? And that was kind of where it began, and had some good partnerships from people I'd met at Amazon India, and that kind of kicked it all off, really.
Okay. And I guess, we can talk more about AMZ Design Kit as well later. To get started though, with regards to design, like what are you seeing? Why is there a need for help in that area? What are you seeing from Amazon sellers right now, or brands in general? Where are they struggling or making mistakes, it seems, with design?
Yeah. I'd go all the way back to the start. When we were at Amazon, I kind of devised, I called it a mountain strategy at the time, but in essence it was 3 pillars. Or 3 layers of a pyramid would be a better description. The base layer was your operational base, then came branding, then came advertising. And the logic was you couldn't ascend to another level until you had completed the level you were on in order to achieve sustainable success. So there is absolutely no point in doing all of this advertising if part number 1, the operational base, isn't met. You go out of stock, everything crumbles. Equally, there's no point of having the best brand in the world if you're not Prime eligible, because it just isn't going to work. So one of the key things was getting the operational base right. Then look at your branding, which is, I called it any touch point you would have with your brand. So that could be the first touch point, which gets most eyeballs, your hero image, or now maybe an ad. And then your secondary and third touch points, which would be product detail pages, storefronts, and then things like the packaging and the product inserts as well, which would be the first physical touch point. All of this leads back to anything to increase average order value, lifetime value, customer retention, repeat purchase. Once these have been nailed, and maybe you don't need to be 100% perfect, but 80% perfect, then you look to drive the traffic. And that funnel was something we observed many years ago, 7, 8, 9 years ago, whenever I started doing this, that the big sellers were doing it quite well, and most weren't. And there was a clear difference. Now, I think we're still seeing this same issue of brands are just finding it really, really difficult, even with this AI revolution of you can just use ChatGPT, throw a prompt in, and that'll solve it. But ultimately, that'll only get you so far, I think. And now my obsession has sort of become, how do we massively lower the cost per design, which ultimately these new tools are allowing? That is the objective. We want the cost per each design to get as low as possible through either reduced time without then reducing quality. So you want the best quality designs at the lowest cost per design. And that is the objective that I'm working on now with the Amazon Design Kit. Is we want to help as many brands and agencies as possible create high value designs in less time for less money at scale. And everything comes back to that mission. There are many different kind of topics we can talk about within that, but that is the core mission, the foundation of everything that I'm thinking about right now. And you can go AI abolish all of that, but I view it as my father-in-law, he has been in wood and forestry his whole life and built a very successful business. Now, when the saw was replaced with the chainsaw, that didn't then make everybody perfect at chopping down trees. Not everyone could be a forester. They wouldn't just pick up the chainsaw. You would still get someone in to come do the job, and they would use that new tool to chop down trees easier, faster, and at lower cost to you, because they could do it in 30 minutes instead of 3 days. And that, therefore, was how that changed. I think AI now is very much a tool, and people could use a chainsaw and learn to use a chainsaw themselves. They certainly can, and that will be the case of AI. But will it be as cost effective to get someone else who is a forester who's done that for the last X number of years or months, is the case of AI, to come in and go, well, I'm already a creative director, I have been for 10 years. Why don't I just use the tool for you, and we'll do it, in half an hour. We'll get it done, and your cost per design will still be lower than if you tried to do it yourself, and the output will be better. And that is kind of the way I'm looking at it now. You could sit there, you could learn it all yourself. The tool could get so good that even maybe you could do it for one ASIN, but then how does that scale? Is your time so valuable that it doesn't make sense for you to sit on whatever tool it is? Does it still make more sense to put a virtual assistant, to put a junior designer with a set of guides, or to put even a senior designer down, if you're working for an agency and you're helping 40 brands, to put them down with these new tools? AI is one tool. There are obviously other tools as well, which we can talk about.
From what you're saying there, yeah, there's like a few things there. There's like time, there's consistency with design, and there's also that experience, that expert experience. And, a lot of these they're businesses, these brands, and a lot of them don't have time. That's probably one of the biggest things. They don't have time. And so, they could go and watch YouTube videos and figure out how to do it, but maybe they don't even have an eye for design. Like they could learn how to use ChatGPT, but like even if you don't have an eye for design, you don't know how to teach it properly to get what you want, you're not going to get great results. And with the current state of things, also, even with ChatGPT or something, it's a time-consuming process just to have it generate one image correctly. It can be. Maybe that'll improve soon, but
it will improve. And in 2 years' time, it will be vastly different, But I think what I've learned so far is a couple of rules, I guess you would say, is everything is easier if you have a set of brand guidelines. No matter what happens, we want everything to look and feel exactly the same across every single touch point. So how do you get to those brand guidelines? They're going to form the foundation of all of your creative for the future. Yes, AI can help you build that out, but you need to ask the right questions. You need to understand what to ask of it, but you need to go through that process first. And, a designer, a creative director can help you with that and give you a better output. And that is the foundation of the building. So it's probably worth getting someone in for a period of time rather than yourself trying to learn to do it with the tool. Then once you've got that, what I've seen is giving any one of these platforms structured inputs, structured data, organized data, is going to lead to better outputs. So for argument's sake, if it understands these are my primary, secondary, and long tail keywords, then when it is designing, it is factoring that into it. If you give it a big dump of text, it doesn't work as skillfully, or effectively, I should say. Whereas if you had given it columns, primary, secondary, and long tail, so it's like, okay, I need to ensure, because of the prompt you've put in, that I am featuring every single primary. I then want to ensure that maybe in my storefront, some of these secondary or long tail are coming in. Something simple like that of structuring the keywords you give it is going to make the output so much better. And combine that with the brand guidelines, you're in a much better place. Now, you could build all of that yourself. I spent a day the other day building a GPT. I did it. I had the starting point. Anyone can now build that GPT or use that GPT. But it could take them a day, whereas you could give someone else, half an hour with it, and they can do it, no problem. It saves you having to do it. And I think that's where we're going to get. These tools will evolve, but like an F1 car, it's only as good as its driver. And the same goes for kind of SaaS with advertising, right? Will AI replace the advertiser? Perhaps. But you still wouldn't want to do it yourself. You'd still prefer someone good at advertising doing it, to kind of control, to steer it, to direct it. And maybe the steering, the analogy with the F1 is really good. This car is perfect for going fast around a race course, which could be an LLM. But you still want the good person driving it. Otherwise, even the very best tool or car can get it wrong, or you wouldn't get the best output. And, Red Bull is really good with that. Verstappen drives the car, he wins championships. Yuki Tsunoda drives the car, he's coming 8th, 9th, 10th. It doesn't work for him, even though it's the same car. And maybe that is a really good way to compare an LLM or any platform you're using right now of a better driver. Someone who's better at handling it will lead to better results. I think that will be consistent. And I don't think that piece will change.
So with what you were saying with prompting, you were getting into that a little bit, just for if somebody did want to try that on their own, like, is it better to, I think it's probably better to create a GPT in this case, if you are trying to get brand consistency. And you mentioned using, like, taking your keywords and helping it understand the brand. Is that what you're getting at there? You use your keywords in that GPT to help it understand what it needs to focus on more?
Exactly that. There's two trains of thought. One is who was it the other day I saw? It was someone at Apple, or someone who'd worked at Apple and has now built out a kind of a UI kit basically for websites. And one of the things that he was talking about, so I'm stealing his idea, this is not my own, was essentially creating a set of rules for your code. Now, if you think about designing with code instead of designing with a paintbrush, okay, the benefit of designing with code is you can ask a GPT or any large language model, you can say, here's my document with all my guidelines. This is exactly what I want to follow. And if you keep it as simple as headings are this size, corner radius of a box is this size, background colors are always this. If you then create every single design in code, you can then ask an LLM to look at that code and say, does this adhere to all of my rules, not just brand guidelines, but my design rules? And it can go, yeah. So there's no back and forth. Everything is perfect. And I really like this idea. And I think we'll get to that point with Figma more than we'll get to it with Canva, because Figma is built from a foundation of it's designed to make websites, and it plays really nicely with developers. So therefore, everything has kind of got that kind of CSS behind it, I guess you would say. So you can then, in my opinion, create a design, give a large language model, which are now plugging into Figma, and Figma are bringing out their own AI, and give it a set of documents to go, these are my rules that I want to be adhered to. And I'm in the design platform now of choice rather than GPT or other. Brilliant. Am I adhering to it all? No, you're not actually. Your heading 1 on your storefront is actually the wrong size. So we know that's not going to be very good when it comes to being easily readable in mobile. Okay, well, fix it. Brilliant. Yeah, I've now updated it to the rule of thumb that you set of it needs to be in a module 8.5% minimum of the module height, not pixel a percentage, which we can get into as well. That logic then means that you're essentially designing with rules, and it's like creating code rather than actually doing design. And I think with Amazon especially, when your objective is to drive conversion rate, average order value, lifetime value as high as possible, you can probably let go a little bit of the artistic flair of an empty whiteboard and a paintbrush on a hot sunny day sat outside. It's less about that. What you care about is those KPIs. And if you look at Amazon themselves, their actual product detail page doesn't really change much. And maybe it isn't the best product detail page in the world in terms of prettiness, but they don't care. They care about getting you to add to that basket. And I think a lot of people are overcomplicating it and thinking we need all these bespoke designs. They must be vastly different from anything we've ever seen. But ultimately, if you set, here are essentially a series of wireframes, we apply my brand guidelines, we know these wireframes work, we don't need to overcomplicate it because we're already 90% of the way there. Those overcomplications, those extra 10% can take 10 times more than it took time-wise to get you to the 90%. And I think these guidelines, these templates would be a way of what we design in the future. And, you know, Hero Patch or Mighty Patch by Hero Cosmetics, a really good example. Their A+ is simply image on the left, text on the right. Image on the right, text on the left. I'm sure it does perfectly well. Otherwise, they wouldn't have it there. That is a template we've got in the Amazon Design Kit, right? You can copy that. So here we are, everyone's sharing stuff on LinkedIn, Twitter, at conferences going, we need to create these wildly innovative, unique designs, is utter BS, because there is a top seller going, this is working perfectly well and we've got 1 million reviews. Why are we trying to reinvent the wheel? It's more about the offering. You know, is this price point for this product offering good enough to make you buy? All the other stuff is stuff on top. You know, a crap offer isn't going to get sold no matter how good your A+ is. So I would focus on cost per design, getting the job done, ensuring it's 90%, rather than trying to eke out the extra bits. And AI and these kind of brand guideline documents, best practice documents, and building with AI plus that, and building in tools like Figma for scale reasons and to be able to get an LLM to plug in, which will be the case soon, is going to make it so much easier for people to get high converting designs at less money, less cost, less time. I went on a big old tangent there, but hopefully I came back to the start.
Yeah, there's a few things there. Yeah, some good stuff. One of the last things was like, yeah, just like not overcomplicating it in general, whether when you're creating your listing, basically, and you know, it's more about having clarity with your listing, making sure it's like basically mobile optimized and optimized for desktop as well. And that's where some people could maybe, where I've seen it myself personally, looking at different listings, they'll go out of their way and like, especially is with A+ content, for example, and they'll create these beautiful, like, huge images, and like the text is in the images, and you know, it looks really nice on desktop. Then you go to mobile and it gets shrunk down and it makes it almost impossible to see. Whereas if you just did something like what you just mentioned with the brand, forgot their name, but where it's just like image on the right, text on the left and vice versa all the way down. It's still, you get the same visual appeal, but it's much easier to read and see the text. It's broken up a little better, especially on mobile. Some things to think about there. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to think of when you drive down the motorway, the road signs there, they're coming at you at 70 miles an hour, 100k an hour, whatever it is. You've only got really that amount of time to process the information. And it's the same as a customer on your page. If you create something so fancy and excitable and it all flows and whatnot, it does look good, but they didn't read it in time, so it doesn't matter. And I think most people get it wrong because most of us are designing, they start an Amazon brand, and they never get round to creating a unique style guide, brand guideline. They go with Open Sans as a font. They never give that much thought. So how it looks and feels and tastes essentially is probably a really good way to think about it. Like, how does it taste, that brand? It all kind of merges into one. Whereas we did a project a while ago for Naked Feast, and one of the key things they did well was, their font pack was just really nice, and it stood out. And the color guidelines was just really nice. The templates we applied to their brand wasn't overly complicated. It just looked very different to everyone else's because they had a unique font. They weren't just using the same font and the same color scheme. And then they applied some small, simple things such as bespoke symbols or bespoke icons, which didn't detract from the design in terms of readability or consumability. And I think you can do so much just by having a good brand guideline. People rush it, but in essence, it just ends up costing you more later on. You can take a very simple image left, text right, and that can look very different by simply changing the brand guidelines. The font being different and having a different structure, still incredibly readable, but it just looks a little bit more jumping out from the page without changing anything, with such little effort once you've got your brand guidelines in place. And that is why I'm such an advocate of, we don't need 1,000 different design variations. I've got 400 templates inside the Amazon Design Kit at the moment. I actually kind of get to the point now I want to reduce that. I want to remove the options you've got. Maybe you should only have 100 options. And as soon as you apply your brand guidelines, it looks bespoke, it looks really nice, it's nice and easy to process for the customer very quickly in desktop and in mobile, and then it's just done, and your conversion rate will inevitably go up because there's data behind those designs. And if it doesn't, maybe there's more to be said about your product offering.
So basically it comes down to, like what you just said there, your brand guidelines plus a winning template that has tons of data behind it showing that it's a winner. Now, maybe you have 400 winners, but like from what you're saying, you're thinking maybe from what you're seeing, you're starting to narrow it down to maybe you're seeing these 100 or so, for example, are maybe actually converting or, getting more clicks than the others, for example, when they're actually applied.
Exactly. And that's ultimately it. At the moment we've got 6 modules templates of A+ Premium for reviews. Like 6 different ways you can show these reviews. In theory, I think you'd be fine, and it'd be such a marginal difference using 2 of those instead of all 6. 2 would probably, those top 2, it's probably a tiny difference to template number 3, 4, 5, and 6. Marginal. Whereas, if you keep thinking, if you scale it up, if we can do all sorts of different things with our reviews, we're just overcomplicating it. The job therefore becomes too big. It doesn't get done. And that's, I was speaking to a company called Dragonfly AI recently, and they do a lot of heat mapping stuff to emulate the human eye. And that's where we're looking at the moment of going, well, we could do Product Pinion and Pigfear, which are great tools, but actually I'm thinking, well, if we've already know these templates work, and we can then run something like Dragonfly AI over the templates and say, listen, they actually tick most boxes. The human eye is drawn to templates 1 and 2 more than review templates 3, 4, 5, 6. We can cut 3, 4, 5, 6. You've got 2 review modules. You pick one of these, you apply your brand guidelines, you're laughing. And then you can run Dragonfly AI again and go, well, the way you applied your brand guidelines, you applied them one way and you applied them another way. Okay, the second way actually worked better. That was proven with the AI to go, that actually is probably going to draw more attention and is, because of, let's say, contrast, easier to read. And that's what I'm getting to at the moment of, we could create so many more templates, but actually Amazon product page only has one template for every single page. If you think about it, there's only one design for where the buy box, etc. is, and it's fine. Amazon has one design, and they convert pretty highly, whereas Shopify has thousands of designs. I would say on average, the Amazon one probably converts better. And I always kind of come back to that. There's only one design, really. So do you need all this bespokeness? Maybe, but maybe that decision fatigue leads to nothing getting done, and therefore the job just doesn't actually get complete because it seems too big.
Mm. Yeah, you're trying to apply too many different good ideas to your design, and it ends up looking like crap because of that.
Exactly. And then, then it's then a case of scaling. If you go, well, this is the review module I always use. Okay, now with tools like Figma, especially more so than Canva, if you have got, we worked with a bed linen client recently, and they had thousands of variations. Thousands, because they had size variations, set variations, and then color variations. So that one single parent SKU, it was an enormous task. So if you then set this is our review module, and we just need to cycle through all of those child SKUs. We've built then some custom plugins which can help with that, and a design system to help with that. But it means that we can update one thing and all 1,000 can then update based on the content we've put in one place. And that design system is where that cost per design can really come down massively. And AI is a little bit away from achieving that for now. And some of the AI tools I've seen in the Amazon space are frankly rubbish in terms of generating the good design. I think it's a waste of time based on the conversation we've just had. Use a template, get a system in place, roll it out across everything, and just get the job done ultimately. That design system still requires some Figma expertise, and it's not great for juniors right now, but it is something we're trying to solve of, here, you can upload your image here, and X number of images will be populated with the perfect design wireframe that you've created there.
Okay. So yeah, just to clarify, just because I haven't personally used Figma very much, what is, and Canva is super popular for people especially trying to do it themselves. What is the big difference between Canva, main differences, and Figma?
Yeah, I recently discovered that Canva has about 200 million users, whereas Figma is only about 4. So there's a vast difference there in the number of users, and which is why we converted all of those templates over to Canva. I think one of the big things about Figma is because it was traditionally built to support website developers. So where we have thousands of buttons across a website, it has been built in such a way to design at scale and create these design systems, and to be incredibly organized in that. Whereas Canva, in my opinion, was built for the quick on-the-fly stuff. Get it done today. That's fine, but it was more for your amateur designer making something quickly. And it does do the job, and it's come a really long way, but the foundation is different. Canva is for the one-off, whereas Figma from day one has been for the design system. If you look at any major company, they will have a Figma file or selection of files where it is perfectly organized, so every single button on the website is sat inside a Figma file somewhere. Amazon will have that product detail page, and this is, these are the different states, hover state, not hover state. And therefore, that's why everything looks consistent across Amazon, which, I assume is proving to work quite well for Amazon, that consistency. If one product page looked different to the next and different to the next because the button colors were different, that confusion, that friction can prevent conversion. So as soon as you start designing at scale, It's unquestionably better and lower cost per design to go with something like Figma, but I appreciate most people have become so accustomed to Canva that it's just still faster for them. So that's kind of the key difference. Hopefully I've explained that okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was going to ask also with Canva, they've definitely updated up a lot, quite a bit over the past year or a few months even. Have you tested out Canva AI, or do you have any thoughts on where they're at right now?
They've definitely come a long way. I think some simple things such as the whiteboard feature, where you can have multiple designs living in one place at different sizes. That is a big enhancement. We create a file now inside the Amazon Design Kit, and we can put 100 templates inside of it, covering storefront and all the sizes with that. Infographics, obviously 1:1 ratio, modules for A+ in premium desktop and mobile. All of those different size dimensions can be in one place rather than multiple different files. And I think that organization alone is a really big improvement. And then the AI can then sit on top of that. You need to make changes, the AI can then help you. I haven't played with the AI too much because I haven't needed to, but just from an organization point, they've kind of not copied, but taken some learnings from Figma from that of all of these different styles and sizes being in one place. So we don't need to have 40 tabs open. You can all be in one tab and everything for your brand can live in one place, one file. That I think is a really nice enhancement. It's made our life much easier as well because I can go, hey, I've just made a pet template and we can put all of your infographics for a pet seller, all of the storefront modules you would need, and then all of your A+ in desktop and mobile, all in one file. And I can give you that file with 100 different components, let's call them, and you can then update all those components in one go. So George, you've designed it in yellow as a background. That is not our brand color, it's blue. I can replace yellow with blue and everyone replaces automatically. So we're building them in such a way so, okay, we need to replace 100 different templates instantly to apply to our brand colors and guidelines. And that is a really nice enhancement from them.
We're coming to the end here. I mean, we could go all day talking about different aspects of design. So, we talked about different ideas that maybe somebody who's maybe a smaller seller, they could implement. They're just getting started. Maybe they have the time, but yeah, also, and so then there's solutions for bigger brands. And that, I guess, brings us to AMZ Design Kit. So I guess tell us more about that.
There are a few kind of core features to the design kit, which I think helps you lower the cost per design. The first that it was born out of was design examples, just getting inspiration. And with that, there's a full searchable library of 30,000 design ideas. And then you can then see that update in real time as users use our Chrome extension to save them, a bit like Pinterest, same functionality, but for Amazon. So if you're on any asset on Amazon, you can save it instantly with a click. That is then going to get pulled into the Amazon Design Kit library. So every day I log in, I see new designs that users are saving and then bookmarking into different projects. So let's say they're saving all their favorite hero images for a collagen product they're doing at the moment. You can then see a bookmark folder with all of those designs in, with appropriate comments attached to them. Just give the whole bookmark folder to the designer and your draft one gets done in less time because you've got the inspiration. If you don't want to scroll on Amazon, there's a simple search function just to search collagen, and it's going to show you every single design that's been saved relating to the term collagen. So you can then just scroll through that and filter by infographics, filter by A+ or storefront. That was kind of the initial foundation of it. The second piece was then those templates, which have now evolved into kits. So you simply open up a kit in Canva or Figma, and you would have, with some of the kits now, there's 120 templates or components there ready for you to then just go apply to your brand. We work on a credit-based system, so at the moment, 100 credits will give you a pack of 120 templates. So it's less than $1 per kind of module, which is significantly lower than paying $1,000. Given at the moment, it's about £50 or $60 per month, which will get you 50 credits. And we're changing them all the time, so don't live by those quotes. But in essence, the cost per design is very low to go, this has worked for a Mighty Patch. We've got that template in there. You can go take that template and it will cost you a couple of dollars to have the exact same design done instantly in Canva or Figma. We do some other things, especially in the AI world of a prompt library. I'm just curating prompts as I see them and different prompt processes, multi-step stuff. Everyone keeps sharing it. There's lots of great minds out there, but we don't want to sit on LinkedIn and Twitter all day. So I'm curating all of those kind of prompts into one place, as well as with a news feed where I'm curating all the design ideas in one place. So John Aspinall makes a really good update, or Dorian makes a really good update. I can save that from LinkedIn. It drops into the feed. You can then see a feed without any distractions of LinkedIn or Twitter. And if you went online for a week, don't worry, someone else has got your back, and those design updates are there for you. The final piece of community, which I'm building out at the moment, I think particularly prevalent given the rise of AI, of just learning off each other so much more. And I think that's kind of a project now I'm working on of, okay, how do we all level up? If it was just me learning AI, I would move quite slowly. But if I had 100, 200, 300 experts also learning it and sharing with me, that cost per design will go down. And that's what it all comes back to.
Yeah, I really like that. It's the AMZ design kit can be applied to Canva as well, because Canva is just so popular. So that's really nice. But yeah, very valuable. Glad you were able to come on and talk about this with me and drop this value for our audience. Where can people reach out to you or find out more about AMZ Design Kit?
The best starting point is simple, amzdesignkit.com, and you can contact me through that as well.
Okay, awesome. Well, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on, George.
Thanks so much, Nick. Speak soon.